Welcome to my channel HFY Universe. The Galactic Council chamber shimmered with holographic light as representatives from 17 advanced civilizations gathered for the emergency session. At the center floated a rotating image of Earth, a small blue world on the edge of mapped space. The Zalori ambassador made the first remark, his tone dripping with amusement. Is this seriously the species requesting council membership? They still burn fuel to escape their own gravity. Laughter echoed through the chamber. Another delegate, the Varn High Speaker, added coldly, they call themselves humanity. Their technology level barely reaches early interplanetary capability. Why waste council time? On the main display, humanity's submission was shown. Fragmented space stations, primitive fusion drives, and a small fleet of outdated ships barely capable of reaching Mars. To the Council, Earth was not a threat. It was a curiosity, a developing species trying to run before it could stand. So the verdict came quickly. Denied, declared the Council chair. Humanity is not ready for galactic integration. Observation status only. No contact beyond monitoring protocols. Another wave of laughter followed. Some even joked about placing Earth in the protected zoo worlds category. Harsh but harmless in their eyes. Far away, in a quiet sector of space beyond Council jurisdiction, Earth received the transmission. No anger, no panic, just silence. Then, something unexpected happened. Human satellites stopped responding to civilian channels. And deep inside classified military docks orbiting Earth's moon, a long dormant system powered on for the first time in decades. A voice echoed across hidden channels. Protocol Blackstar activated. And for the first time in Council history, Earth did not send a reply. Instead, it built something. Something the galaxy had never seen before. A warship that did not belong to any known classification. And it was already moving, silently, toward the outer relay stations. The outer relay station of the Varn Empire was never meant to be attacked. It sat far beyond contested space, surrounded by automated defense drones and long-range scanners that could detect even a microscopic debris field. Yet, for the first time in its recorded history, nothing was detected. No engines, no warp signature, no heat bloom, just absence. Commander Reth Varn stared at the tactical display. Rerun the scans. All scans are running continuously, the technician replied nervously. There is nothing out there. That is impossible, Reth snapped. Nothing does not destroy 3 monitoring probes. Because 3 relay probes had already gone dark. No distress signal. No debris field. No communication spike. They simply stopped existing. Then it appeared. Not on sensors but visually. A shape formed against the backdrop of stars, like reality itself had forgotten to render it properly. Long, angular, and unnaturally smooth. Did not glow. It did not reflect. Simply was. The technician whispered. That design. It doesn't match any council database. Reth's voice dropped. It's not in any database because it doesn't belong to any known civilization. The object drifted closer. No acceleration signatures. No propulsion trail. Then, for the first time, it spoke. Not through radio. Not through light, but directly into every communication channel at once. Even the ones meant to be isolated. A calm human voice echoed through the station. Unknown vessel. You are occupying restricted Earth observation space. Silence filled the bridge. Reth blinked. Earth. That primitive world. The voice continued, still calm. You have 3 choices. Leave. Stand down. Or be removed. A nervous laugh escaped one of the junior officers. Removed. By them. Reth straightened. Identify your vessel. Oz. Then the reply came. Designation, UNSC Abyss Walker. No council registry matched it. No alien archive contained it. It was as if the ship had been written into existence only moments ago. Then the sensors finally reacted. A surge of energy, impossible levels, spiked around the human ship. But it wasn't coming from engines. It was coming from space itself, bending slightly around it. Reth took a step back. Prepare defensive grid. Weapons are already locked, the technician said. But before anything could fire, the human ship moved. Not forward, not through space, but between frames of space, as if reality blinked and it was simply closer than before. A second transmission arrived, colder this time. You are trespassing. And somewhere deep inside the Council network, an emergency alert finally triggered. First contact event. Classification. Unknown threat. The galaxy, which had laughed at humanity only hours ago, finally stopped laughing. The emergency alarm inside the Varn relay station did not sound like a warning anymore. Sounded like panic. Red lights flooded the command deck as every system attempted to process the same impossible truth. A human warship had appeared inside defensive perimeter space, without crossing it. Commander Reth Varn's voice cracked for the first time in his career. Fire all automated defenses. Now. Hundreds of defense drones launched at once. Sleek metallic hunters designed to shred capital ships before they could even align weapons. They accelerated toward the human vessel in a perfect formation. For a brief moment, it almost looked like order was still in control. Then the human ship responded. Not with missiles, not with lasers, but with a pulse. A single wave of distorted gravity rippled outward. Every drone in formation froze mid-flight, then turned slightly, as if the concept of forward had been redefined, and vanished. No explosion, no debris, just erased trajectories. A stunned silence filled the relay station. One officer whispered, "Where did they go?" No one answered, because the sensors already had. They weren't gone. They had been displaced into scattered coordinates hundreds of light-years apart, each drone now drifting alone in empty space, cut off forever. Reth stepped back slowly. That's not technology. That's control over space itself. The human ship drifted closer again. And this time, its hull began to shift. Panels unfolded like waking metal. Structures rotated into alignment that made no sense to conventional engineering. It was not one weapon. It was a system. A layered architecture of unknown physics. Then the voice returned. Measured. Human. This was a warning shot. Was. Then the words that shattered every assumption the Council had ever made. We do not escalate first. But we do finish conflicts. At the same moment across deep space, the Galactic Council war rooms began lighting up with emergency reports. Relay stations silent. Scout fleets missing. Entire observation nets gone dark. The Council chair stood up slowly, staring at the collapsing map of controlled space. "This is impossible," he whispered. But the map didn't care about belief. One by one, the dots representing Council outposts near Earth's region were disappearing. And at the center of it all, a single label appeared on every screen. Prince Abyss Walker, active. Reth Varn stared at his final readout. The human ship was no longer outside. It was inside firing range. And still not attacking. As if waiting, giving one last chance. Then the relay station's main screen flickered. A new transmission request appeared. From Earth. Reth hesitated, then accepted. The screen went black. And for the first time, he saw Earth not as a weak world, but as the thing the galaxy had never prepared to meet. Something that had learned patience. And weaponized it. The Council war room was no longer a place of strategy. It was a place of disbelief. Holographic star maps flickered violently as more systems went dark. Entire observation networks around the Sol region were collapsing one after another, not from attack in the traditional sense, but from total disappearance of contact. The Council chair gripped the edge of the command table. Status of the outer relay stations. A junior officer hesitated. "All silent, sir. No debris. No escape signals. Just offline." A tense silence followed. Then the Zalori ambassador, once the loudest voice of mockery, spoke in a much quieter tone. "Maybe we should consider a diplomatic withdrawal. The word withdrawal had never been used in Council doctrine for a primitive species. But Earth was no longer on that list. Far away, at the Varn relay station, Commander Reth Varn stared at the transmission screen still connected to Earth. The signal stabilized. A human face appeared. Not a soldier. Not a warlord. Just a calm officer sitting in a dimly lit command room orbiting Earth's moon. Behind him, massive structures rotated silently, ships being assembled in orbit like a sleeping giant finally waking up. The human spoke first. "You have entered restricted observation space." Reth swallowed hard. "We were told Earth was unprepared for interstellar contact." Faint pause. Then the human replied. "You were correct." The words hung in the air. Reth frowned. "Then why this response?" The human officer leaned slightly forward. "Because preparation is not the same as permission." At that exact moment, the space around the relay station shifted again. But this time it was not one ship. It was several, then dozens, then hundreds. Hidden signatures that had not been visible before began to reveal themselves, like shadows stepping into light. Human fleets. Not scattered. Not experimental. Organized. Layered. Waiting. The Council had been watching Earth for centuries. But Earth had been watching too. And preparing in silence. Reth's voice broke. "How long have you had this fleet?" The human officer looked past the camera for a moment, as if remembering something old. "Long enough to stop counting." The Council chair's voice echoed through the emergency channel. "All fleets to defensive formation. Full galaxy alert. Humanity is to be classified as was." No one wanted to say it. Finally someone whispered it. A peer threat. But even that felt wrong. Because peers fought on equal terms. And nothing about this felt equal. In the relay station, alarms screamed again. But this time Reth didn't look at them. He was watching the human fleet unfold outside the viewport. Silent ships. Perfect formation. No aggression. No movement. Just presence. And in that silence, Reth understood something terrifying. The humans were not invading. They were responding. To something the Council had done a long time ago. Something no one had noticed until now. And the human officer's final words confirmed it. "You laughed at us when we were weak." But we were never unarmed. The transmission cut. And the first human fleet began to move. Not toward war. But toward correction. For the first time in Galactic Council history, the Emergency Defense Protocol was activated across an entire sector. Not a system. Not a region. Sector. Thousands of warships from allied civilizations moved at once, forming defensive lattices around key relay points. Energy shields bloomed like artificial stars. Weapon systems that had never been fired in real combat were finally armed. And yet, none of them felt ready. Because the enemy had not behaved like an enemy. Humanity had not invaded. It had arrived everywhere at once. On the tactical display, Commander Reth Varn watched as the human fleet fully revealed itself. It was not a single armada. It was layers. Hidden fleets behind debris fields. Ships inside asteroid shadows. Silent carriers drifting inside gravitational dead zones. Each one perfectly positioned. Each one waiting for the same command. Reth whispered. "They were already here." A junior officer replied shakily. "We were looking outward, not inward." Then the first real engagement began. A Council strike fleet fired on a suspected human formation near the outer relay ring. Hundreds of plasma lances crossed space in a single coordinated volley. For a fraction of a second, it looked like victory. Then the human response came. Not defensive shields. Not counterfire. But interruption. The plasma lances simply stopped midspace. Frozen. Like time had forgotten them. Then they reversed direction. Slowly at first. Then faster. Returning to sender. The Council fleet had just enough time to realize what was happening. And then their own attack erased them. No explosion visible across long-range sensors. Just silence where a fleet used to be. In the Council war room, panic finally broke containment. "This is impossible," one strategist shouted. "They're reversing projectile vectors at the field level." Another officer screamed, "It's not weapons, they're controlling trajectories themselves." The Council chair stood motionless, because he finally understood the pattern. Humanity wasn't matching firepower. It was rewriting the rules of engagement. Back near the relay station, Reth's terminal reconnected once more to Earth Command. The same human officer appeared. Still calm. Still unchanged. "We warned you," the human said. Reth's voice cracked. "This is not defense. This is annihilation." The human paused, then replied, "No." Second pause. "This is containment." At that exact moment, the entire battlefield shifted. Every Council fleet across the sector received a single unified signal. Not a weapon lock. Not a threat map. It displayed every Council position near Earthspace. And every exit route. Only 2 labels appeared beneath it. Safe Withdrawal Corridor 1. Non-compliance zones. All others. The implication was unmistakable. Humanity had already decided how this would end. The only variable left was how many ships would survive the lesson. Reth stared at the map in silence. Then he looked at the human fleet outside. Still not attacking. Still waiting. And for the first time he realized the truth. The war had already been decided before the first shot was fired. The only thing left was whether the galaxy would accept it.
The galaxy had stopped pretending this was a normal war. It wasn't. It was a system-wide collapse of assumptions. Council fleets that tried to push forward were either frozen in place, redirected, or quietly erased from tactical maps without trace. Those who attempted retreat found something even more unsettling. Humanity always knew where they would go, and it had already opened the door. In the Council Command Nexus, the situation report updated in real time. 37 fleets unresponsive, 12 relay chains severed entire observation network around Sol, gone silent. The Council chair finally spoke, voice hollow. "This is not a defensive perimeter." A pause. "This is a controlled space." Commander Reth Varn stood frozen at his station, watching the human fleet remain perfectly still outside the relay station. No pursuit. No aggression. Just containment. Then his screen flickered again. The human officer reappeared. But this time something had changed. Behind him, Earth was visible. Not as a blue marble, but as a heavily layered orbital structure, rings upon rings of stations, shipyards, and silent defensive platforms stretching farther than any known civilization should reasonably sustain. Reth whispered, "What is that?" The human answered without hesitation. "That is where we stopped pretending we were alone." A warning signal erupted across all Council channels. Not from humanity. From deep space. A subsystem older than any known empire suddenly activated. Designation appeared on every screen. Blackstar Protocol, active. The Council chair stepped back. "We never detected that program," a Varn scientist replied shakily, "because it was never part of galactic records." A pause. Then the realization hit like a supernova. It was part of Earth. Every Council fleet froze simultaneously. Not from attack. From signal overload. A single transmission had been broadcast across the entire battlefield, not targeting weapons, not hacking systems, but rewriting identification layers. Every ship, every fleet, every command node suddenly received a classification update. All hostile presence. Contained. No destruction followed. No retaliation. Only structure. Like a collapsing storm being folded into a sealed box. Reth watched as his own ship systems locked into a stable idle state. Weapons offline. Engines restricted. Not destroyed. Controlled. His voice cracked. "They didn't destroy us." The human officer nodded. "No." A pause. "We removed escalation capability." The Council chair finally understood what Blackstar was. It was not a fleet. Not a weapon. Not even a strategy. It was a doctrine. A final layer of humanity's survival logic. If the galaxy becomes hostile, then hostility itself must become irrelevant. Across space, human fleets began to reposition, not toward council worlds, but around them, encircling patterns forming massive geometric boundaries in space. Containment zones, safe corridors, no invasion lanes, only structure, only control. Reth looked at the human officer one last time.
His voice was quiet now.
If we comply, do we survive? The human answered simply, yes. A pause. Because we were never interested in extinction. Another pause. We were interested in ending the need for wars like this. The transmission ended. And for the first time since the council was formed, no one laughed. No one argued. No one tried to fire back. Because the galaxy had finally understood something it was never meant to learn this way. Humanity did not come to conquer space. It came to make sure space could never threaten it again. The galaxy did not end with an explosion. It ended with understanding. Systems that once screamed with fleet coordination now sat in silent compliance. Weapons remained intact, but unreachable. Fleets remained whole, but unmoving. Every major power that had once laughed at Earth now floated inside carefully structured containment corridors, like predators suddenly realizing the cage had no visible walls. And, at the center of it all, Earth remained quiet. Too quiet. In the council chamber, the chair stood before a frozen holographic map of the galaxy. Red markers, former threat fleets, were no longer blinking. They were stable.
Contained.
Neutralized without destruction. A strategist finally spoke, voice shaking. So, this is surrender? No one answered immediately, because it didn't feel like surrender. It felt like permission had been revoked. Commander Reth Varn was still at the relay station, his ship locked in place by unknown system constraints. No weapons. No escape. Only observation. The human officer appeared one last time. Behind him, Earth's orbital rings stretched like an artificial horizon, vast, layered, and impossibly old in design. Reth asked quietly, "What are you really?" The human did not answer immediately. Then he said, "We are what happens when a young species learns the universe, does not care if it survives." A pause. And decides it should care back. Then the final transmission began. Not to the council. Not to fleets. But to all surviving civilizations simultaneously. A single broadcast. Unfiltered. Unstoppable. Earth's Central Archive. Blackstar Final Statement. We were not the strongest species in the galaxy. We were not the oldest. We were not the most advanced. But we learned something earlier than most. The universe does not negotiate with weakness. So we stopped being weak. Across the council chamber, silence deepened. The broadcast continued. Blackstar was never a weapon. It was a decision. A decision that no civilization should ever again mistake curiosity for safety, or laughter for superiority. Reth watched Earth one last time, not as a target, not as a mystery, but as something far more unsettling. A lesson that had already been taught and could not be untaught. The human officer's final words came softly. "You are not prisoners." A pause. "You are witnesses." The screen went dark. And the war ended. Not with victory. Not with defeat. But with a rewritten understanding of power itself. In the days that followed, no species attempted invasion again. Not because they were forbidden, but because they now understood what it cost. And Earth returned to silence. Orbiting. Watching. Waiting. Not for war, but for the next civilization that would forget the lesson. The end.